Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, Team Mosso at the1916company.com for purchase, pricing, and availability questions concerning this watch. Today, we discuss a 4th generation FP Journe Chronometre Resonance. This is, of course, the black label version of the watch, the most exclusive, a combination of platinum case and black gold dial that is reserved solely for those buying at Journe boutiques and espace, and who also have a large-scale prior purchase history with the company. So this is even more exclusive than the boutique editions. The watch is 42 millimeters, meaning it's a nice large size for this large-scale watch, which was, by its nature, always going to be bigger than the originals. So I'm going to go into that in a moment. Let's start with the basics. 42 millimeters in diameter. You can see that in profile it's not thick. It's 11 millimeters thick. But being the 42, it's a bit broader lug-to-lug at 51.9 millimeters. It still has a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Now it's got a black and gold dial, a platinum case, which is large, and a solid gold movement. So this is a weighty watch. Throwing it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters circumference, you can see that it is a big timepiece. Not too big though, I could wear this. I'm going to say this, if your wrist is smaller than mine, you're going to want a smaller res. The Gen 4 in 42 millimeters looks good proportionally. It has a bigger dial that can breathe more easily. It's less confined than on the smaller version, but this is my aesthetic preference. Still, it's going to be the lugs that determine whether or not this will work with your wrist. And at almost 52 lug to lug, it is sizable. So I think my wrist, 16 centimeters, is the smallest that can wear this. Taking a look at the watch, everything is well done, and Journe does meet you halfway by drilling the lugs close to the case so the pivot point can be inboard of the edge. This does help with smaller wrists. And then a curved spring bar is used so there's no impediment to the motion of the strap. It can pull straight down. Taking a quick look, you can see that on both sides. There's also Journe's pull tab spring bar, so you can pop the strap off without a tool. We have Journe's matching platinum buckle. And then we have Journe's platinum case. Journe making dials, cases, movements all in-house, a fully integrated manufacturer, building fewer than 1,000 pieces per year. We have a case that is largely polished, defined by the overlapping flange of the case back and the bezel. That defines the mid case, which features Calatrava-style blended lugs that turn down 90 degrees from the horizontal sweep of the case band. We have a very symmetrical case, domed case back, domed bezel. Turning around, you can see there are two different crowns. This one is used for winding and setting. This is actually a trigger. You pull it out. You don't turn it. You pull it out to synchronize the 2 seconds hands, because resonance, acoustic resonance in this case, takes about 7 to 10 minutes to synchronize the 2 sides of the watch. So you might start off with the seconds hand of each side out of sync in terms of orientation. So this flyback action will reorient them and synchronize them. So that's how that works. Now on the Res 4, and this is considered to be the Res 4, the 1 year only 2019 watch, if you recall that one, that was considered to be a sort of milestone piece prior to the arrival of the 4th gen. So that was sort of a placeholder between the 3rd generation, which was the parking meter, and the 4th generation, which is this. So that is not technically the 4th gen. This is. The movement of the crown to the case flank is one of the features that characterizes the 4th gen Resonance, and it makes it a lot easier to set than when you had the bullhead winding and setting system. So let me demonstrate now how this works. First thing you want to do, pull it out. Now by adjusting in opposite directions, you adjust the 2 different time scales. One is 24 hours. This can operate as a true GMT. And then the other one is in a 12-hour format. So the way this works is you just pull the crown out and then you turn in opposite directions. Now when you wind the watch, you push the crown back in. You can see the power reserve indicator advancing. The idea here is that you will wind it at the same time every day, like a marine chronometer. The concept being that the remontoire, or constant force device, on each side of this doubled movement, that will only operate for 28 hours, which is not a problem if you're winding it once every 24 hours. Ultimately, it will deactivate if you let it go. So from hour 28 to 42, the remontoire is deactivated, and although the watch will run, the chronometric power reserve has been exceeded. So you want to make sure that you always wind this watch at the same time every day to keep the twin constant force devices, which jump every second, active to deliver constant force to the escapements, and thus permitting constant amplitude and very precise regulation of this multi-position adjusted double free-sprung system. A little note about acoustic resonance. Obviously these days there are other resonance watches, the most prominent of which outside of the Journe stable uses a synchronizing spring. Journe would not describe that as acoustic resonance. It may be fair to describe it as a resonating watch, but that is a form of mechanical resonance. This is purely acoustic, with energy lost from the two escapements and emitted by the balance wheels, causing the two to synchronize and beat in opposition. And so the only thing they share is a common base plate. They're not mechanically coupled. There are factors such as perfectly symmetrical balances, perfectly identical hairsprings, which you could see are opposite in their orientation, and then the gap between the wheels, which can be adjusted using this gold pinion. You can see how there's a rack and pinion system with a set screw. This balance cock can move in and out, and the adjustment of this balance cock allows the watchmaker at Journe to achieve the perfect gap necessary to optimize acoustic resonance. The idea here is not just that they beat in opposition or that they synchronize, but because the hairsprings are equal and opposite, because the balances are moving equal and opposite, if one by position or some sort of precipitous motion of the wrist should cause this one to slow down, this one will be equal and opposite and cause it to speed back up. So the idea is not just that they synchronize to each other, but that they are self-correcting in a chronometric sense. Now, this is a very different movement than the first 3 generations of resonance in the anniversary piece. This is caliber 1520. You can see it is big. And it's important to note just one barrel. It used to be 2 barrels, 2 drivetrains, but what Journe has done is he has implemented a differential system. So the differential ensures that the 2 sides start with the same amount of energy, because that is what a differential will do for you. And it has been geared to equalize the energy to each side. So the 1 barrel is no longer a hindrance to timekeeping, and to double down on consistency from side to side, the differential then feeds energy to the remontoir devices, which are basically linear springs that act as 1-second power reserves, and every 1 second that power reserve is topped off by the mainspring. And so it is that 1-second spring reserve that is transmitted to the escapement, which ensures that the barrel for the first 28 hours of power reserve does not drive the balance directly on either side. And that constant force is what allows Journe to regulate each side for excellent consistency. Constant force, constant amplitude, that makes the watchmaker's job easier. Now you can see it's a complex movement, 62 joules. Size 15, a very, very big movement as well. 34.6 millimeters in diameter and solid gold, bridges and plates, rose gold. Taking a quick look, you can see the Journe finishing has come a ways. It's better than it was in the past, and it's now more convincing. Although all of the bevels are started mechanically, and in some instances you can see a little bit of the remaining milling mark bites, for the most part they're now rounded, mirrored, and finished with a second pass that gives that glossy, convex, mirror-like aesthetic of the best bevels, and we're talking equal to the likes of Patek and Vacheron here, so consider mainstream high-end luxury. You'll also note that the bridge for the adjustment pinion actually has 2 inward angles, one on each side, and executed on steel, no less. That's a piece of black polished steel. You won't find them on the rose gold bridges and plates, but it is nice to see interior angles on a Journe movement because hitherto it's been uncommon. The free-sprung balances allow the precise adjustment using the variable inertia blocks on the rim of the balance, and those are not susceptible to shock-induced timing deviation the way a mobile stud index can be. So they do allow both a very precise regulation and then security against shock. They are 3 hertz, so 6 beats per second, 21,600 vibrations per hour. All this is water resistant down to 30 meters, so please don't take it swimming, but splash and rain exposure is okay. Taking a quick look at the movement itself, you'll note that locating pegs that are used to locate bridges on underlying structures, those have been polished on their top. That represents best practice in the watchmaking industry, so I'm happy to see it. And Journe uses an unconventional sort of lateral stripe. We also have solarization on the crown wheel core, and all screw heads are black polished, as are the bridges associated with the steel bridges associated with the remontoir system. You can see that their upper step features black polish, and then their lower steps feature polished locating pins, but also satination. Now turning over to the dial one more time, you can see things have changed a little bit. We have the much loved 12-24 split, so you can use it as a true travel timer. And you can see that we also have a visible differential. I'll do my best to show it to you. It is a hard thing to see, but this is another example of the excellence of the finish on this model as a flagship Journe. Notice how this steel bridge has been skeletonized, and both sides of the skeletonization feature 4 interior angles executed on tight confines in a steel component. This component has 8 interior angles. You're getting your money's worth. You can also appreciate the silver. They're whitened, but they're sterling silver. So sterling silver sub-registers with a polished steel bezel that surrounds them. The dial is blackened gold, so although it does not look like gold, it is. And you can see Journe's distinctive tapered blue hands, with the exception of the seconds, which are his distinctive counterweighted or loop counterweighted lancet style. A beautiful watch, and perhaps from a cerebral standpoint, the most appealing FP Journe timepiece in its most exclusive form. Reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.